What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we have to have a slightly uncomfortable conversation because it involves your mortality. Alrighty, y'all. I am going to try desperately not to come off as preachy in this video because so many times when people cover a topic like this, that's what it comes off as. Remember, I do not have all the answers. I'm just some guy on the internet. I do have damn near 10 years of experience on a bike, but that ain't shit. There are people out there who have been riding a lot longer than I have, and they may have different solutions. And if you're one of those people, leave them down in the comments below. Let's have a conversation about this topic because it is important. And it's a mistake that not only am I still susceptible to all the time, but it's something that every motorcyclist is. And there's no real way to train against it. Now, before we go any further, this video is sponsored by Break Free. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later in the show and why I always wear this particular piece of safety equipment, both on and off-road. I was actually recently in Canada riding off-road where it was extremely dusty, and the guys were like, "What the hell is that? Because that's awesome, because I can see you in the dust." And I'm like, "It's my Break Free. You should check one out. I've got a link. It's in the comments." Oh, and in case you're curious, this right here, this is a 2022 Super Duke Evo, Super Duke R Evo. This is the top shelf spec version of the bike from 3 years ago now. The only difference really between this is the motor's not as big as the modern one, and it doesn't have the variable valve timing on the intake cams. So at least that's as far as I can tell, the only major difference. And it doesn't have the crazy headlight. This one still has a pretty wild headlight, but not as insane as the modern one, which honestly, I really like it, and I may see about putting one on there just because. Now, the impetus behind me making this video is an experience that I had on a racetrack not too long ago. It was a terrifying experience, so much so that it threw me off for the rest of the day, and actually has had a kind of profound impact on me as a rider. I'm gonna have to be very careful in how I describe this event because I want to be respectful of the person and or persons involved. But it's important that you guys understand what happened because this is a very good teachable experience. Okay, so let's try to get into this. And some people down in the comments, I bet you were there. Please show the same kind of restraint in describing the event because, yeah, it was messed up. So, we're out at a racetrack. It is session 2 of day 1 of a track day weekend. Usually track days around here happen in 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Now, session 2, especially if you're not familiar with the racetrack, is usually still learning. You're still trying to figure out where the braking zones are. I mean, even in the intermediate group in Ride Smart, who I normally ride with, the first session is not quite round robin, but it's still duck, duck, goose. You're still following the leader. Because braking zones are one of the most important things on a racetrack, especially one that has limited runoff. Because if you run wide through a corner, you're in the grass. And this may come as a surprise to some folks, but street tires plus grass equals not good. That's the actual equation for that, by the way. So it's session 2, and they had already busted out the session jerseys. Session jerseys are where you're, followed by an instructor who can film your laps, and you want to put down a good lap to show, the best that you can do. And the funny thing is, every instructor who I've ever ridden with on a racetrack who is filming you, regardless of the organization, will say the same thing. I don't want you to go fast. I want you to show me your best form, your best lines, and your best braking. They don't want to see you going faster because when you're going faster, you make mistakes. But it's so hard to fight that impulse because you see red and you want to go for it. You want to show off, because who knows? I've ridden with Kyle Wyman behind me. I've had this happen before. I've had an absolutely awesome day out at Coda. I know the lines. I'm doing great. And then I put on the session jersey and it all falls apart, because there's just some impulse in my brain that won't allow me to just relax and do the thing. So anyway, session 2, and it's basically the second or third lap. It was very early in the session, to the point where the instructor had just waved this rider through. Rider sees red, gets in front of the coach, and is behind me on my Sportster and a guy on a KTM RC390, which ironically is following me because the Sportster is setting a good pace for an RC390, which made me feel very good about myself. And the rider behind us, but who's on their filming lap, they gun it. They absolutely gun it. They try to get past us because they want that clean lap. They want the clear air. And they shoot straight past me as I am almost about to tip in. And if you know anything about a braking zone on a racetrack, you know that tip in is at the very end of the braking zone. And this rider is still flying past me. I could hear them coming in the braking zone. I could hear them coming up underneath me into this left-hand corner. And it caused me just for a second to lose focus and not dip in. Mercifully, that caused me to not get in this rider's way and not get T-boned, because this rider was moving at like 110 miles an hour at the end of the braking zone, going straight into what is essentially a 75-degree corner. Rider gets on the brakes, the rear end of the motorcycle shoots up like this. Rider lets go of the brakes, it comes right back down, fishtails, and they shoot off the end of the racetrack at maybe 60 or 70 miles an hour into the grass. And at that point, I realize I have to turn, because this is about as steep as that corner is right here. And if I follow that, I'm a wreck on a wreck. Now, the second I turned, I was like, that's a red flag. Sure enough, a couple corners later, red flags are out. I pull off the racetrack, but I was going to pull off anyway, because I could have reached out and touched this rider. Literally, they were about where that camera is to me. I could have gone bonk. The track is now closed for 90 minutes, and the rider needs to med flight out because they had run into a tire wall at very high speed. And it was a very rough experience.
Now, I did want to jump in here and let you guys know that as far as I'm aware, the rider is recovering, and I'm wishing them well. I'd love to see them back out on a racetrack as soon as humanly possible, assuming that's something that they're still interested in doing. And one thing I did want to mention here too is that I'm not telling this story for like internet clout or, you know, my own pity. It's just one of those things where we all know that motorcycling is inherently a risky activity, but you rarely see it happen in front of your very eyes, and that's really what threw me for a loop on that day, because we were all out there at the rider meeting just a few sessions before talking about how much fun this day was going to be. And one of the reasons people go to a racetrack is to experience their motorcycle in a place where they can be as risk averse as humanly possible. There's no obstacles, there's no cars, none of that, because motorcycling, as we're going to talk about a little bit later, is all about risk mitigation. And there's no great way to do this, and I apologize if this comes off as gauche, but one of the things that I've really found is a great way to help mitigate your risk on the street is this brake-free helmet light right here.
The reason why I choose to wear this thing is because, sure, this Duke may have a decently bright tail light, and it's a little bit brighter even when you get on the brakes, but this isn't in somebody's eye line. Your helmet is. This thing's got 3 modes. It's got what I like to call this day mode, which is super high contrast. Then you've got a night mode where it gets brighter when you stop. And then it has a hazard. This is super handy for when you're riding in the dark, when you're riding in inclement weather, or, as I found, when you're riding off-road, because you don't have a brake light off-road. And how's somebody behind you going to know if you're slowing down? Well, your helmet can tell them. If you want to check this thing out for yourself, click that link down in the description below where I've got a discount code and you can get $10 off one of these bad boys.
It's also really easy to swap from helmet to helmet, and it only takes like a second to pop on and pop off. So check it out, click the link down in the description below, and let's get back on the road.
Now, what caused that wreck? There's a couple of factors, but the main one, and this is the general consensus among riders in the pit and the instructors there, was that it was ego. And this is a mistake that I make all the time. This is such an easy mistake because it happens in a moment. It happens in a moment where you're just like, I can make this corner a little bit faster. I can outrun this guy. I can get around this car really quickly. Whatever it is, it's that instinct in your brain that's like, I've got this. I can make this maneuver before I experience the consequences of it. Because that's all motorcycling is it's balancing risk. And your ego is the thing that separates you from being able to understand your risk tolerance. And again, it's the same mistake that I make so many times. I have made this mistake a gazillion times. Here's a very good example of that. I was out riding with some guys in Canada, and actually, consequently, I hurt my shoulder while I was up there, which is part of the reason why I'm going nice and easy today, because I'm not really super comfortable turning, because moving my upper body whilst my hand is attached to the grip is uncomfortable. I also suck. But anyway, I was riding up in Canada, and one of the guys offered me a 250 RX, CRF 250 RX, which is their race bike, essentially. It's a race 250. It's as gnarly as their 250s can get. And everybody else, myself included, was riding CRF 250Fs, which is the most donkey-like little 250 trail bike that you can get. It is most friendly, most playful little thing. It's a great little single-cylinder motor. I just was like, you know what? I can't ride that thing. I'm not feeling up to it. I want to learn more on the 250 or on the F. I'd rather do that on the F than on the RX. But my ego was also the same thing that told me I should just go run out and buy this Super Duke because I'm completely ready for it. And then the first thing I did when I got on it, when we were going straight, is, you know, bury the needle in second gear, and I was looking at the sky. Because I was just like, holy shit, this thing is extremely quick. The ego is is the devil just sitting on your shoulder the whole time, just being like, yeah, you can do it, you can do it. Come on, go faster, go faster. Don't break into this corner. Drag your knee out on the street. And it's just gonna cause you to get into trouble. And again, there's no real way to train yourself against that instinct. The only thing you can do is just ignore it. That's all you can do. But it's so hard because you see your buddies fly by you on the left when you're just cruising down the street, and you just want to drop a gear and get after them. You know? And who knows what's around this corner? Woo! It is so much fun, though. It is so much fun to get after it every now and again. And that's one of the things that I always try to tell people, too, is look, that devil on your shoulder, it's going to win sometimes. And the longer you ignore it, the harder it is to ignore it in the future. The more you keep telling yourself no to stuff like popping wheelies or digging into the throttle on a fucking Super Duke, the harder it is to fight that instinct later on. And so this is something that I've learned throughout my years of riding, and it's the one thing that I'd like to impress upon y'all, is it is entirely possible, and there's going to be a bunch of people who hate when I say this, it is entirely possible to squid responsibly. You just need to be willing to accept the consequences of that, which often involves the fuzz. If you're going to speed, pick your moments. Don't do it through a corner. Power out of a corner on a street that you know, where you can dig into the power and you know you're going to be safe doing it. Like, I know that there's this truck up ahead of me, so I'm just going to be nice and easy through this corner, but I'm still going to have a little bit of fun. Switch over. But I'm not going to fly into its ass end, and I'm not going to pass it on the left because there's no way for me to see around it. If you're going to pop a wheelie, you can do it safely. It's not going to be like Zeus hits you with a lightning bolt and you suddenly explode. You're not going to die just by popping a wheelie. You're not going to die just by speeding. But you have to pick your moments, guys. You have to pick your moments. And it's really tough sometimes. It's really tough because you see somebody who you're like, I can hang with them, and they go flying by you. Or you're stuck behind, well, I'm assuming this is a telecom truck that's out here ready to fix a power pole or something on a really, really twisty road. And you know exactly what this corner is going to do in front of you, but you don't know what car is right around that fucking corner. And so you're stuck behind this guy who's riding his brakes down the fucking hill. But you also realize that this is, you know, probably a 5 or 6 ton truck filled with a bunch of, you know, shit, and probably has a top speed of 55 miles an hour. The reality is you're your own worst enemy on the motorcycle. And if you can get into your own head and tell yourself to shut the fuck up and just enjoy the ride, you're going to be so much safer. I get it all the time from people who I assume just want to be dicks in the comments for shits and giggles. Like, they're going to see that I'm riding this Super Duke, like I'm driving Miss Daisy down this twisty road, and they're going to call me a fucking wimp. I promise you there's people in the comments making fun of me right now. I don't care. I'm just out here having a good time, man. And that's all I'm ever doing on a motorcycle. And that's all we're all ever doing. Yeah, guys. If one thing, remember, squid responsibly, pick your moments, and tell that little demon sitting on your shoulder to shut the fuck up, pull it off your fucking shoulder, give it a fucking swirly, and, you know, maybe wear an airbag. Let's be open and honest with ourselves. Tell us a story when you had a, like, oh shit moment down in the comments if you've made it that far. Because it's always nice to see somebody who can look at one of their oh shit moments and reflect on what happened. That's one of the things that we were talking about up in Canada, is being able to diagnose why you crashed. If you can do that, and you don't just say, oh, I don't know, or oh, the brakes locked up, or you can come up with the sequence of events that shows that you know what happened and you can grow from it. And while you're down there, don't forget to check out Brake Free. They make the best helmet brake light for your ride because it lets everybody know, hey, I'm slowing down. And as you can see by the fact that I'm holding it in my hand, it's easy to take on and off your helmet, but it's not just going to fall off too. Works great off-road. Ask me how I know. And with that, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.